Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome Hunter, David, Alex, Raphael, the other Alex, Vicky, Gabriela, Corbin, Santiago, Keisha, and Jamie. Thank you guys so much for joining today. So far this morning, we have certain stocks kind of trending up like AMC and GameStop, but the one I really want to point out is Corsair. Corsair had just some explosive movement yesterday towards close, and it has some awesome momentum heading into the market today. I like this stock for the long term. I think it's at some pretty good levels. One thing to notice is that the IV is rising a little bit, so I'm really looking for some short put options on it. I think it looks pretty solid, and I think it has a lot of growth potential.
Yeah, and that move up today made us come all the way up to the $30 resistance, and we are going to be opening right around there. So we might get a nice break up through there, or we might get a rejection off of there to the downside. So definitely look at it for a break up through $30 if you're going to play it, because I think that'll definitely be the level to look for. But this stock is really gapping up, Mike, and really I'm not seeing too many other stocks on my watch list gapping up. Even the big ones like AMC and GME, they're up a little bit, but not too much by any means. Only just a point or two.
For sure. And then even stocks like Apple, they're down a little bit this morning. I was looking at the SPY. It's not tanking at all. It's just down a little bit. And I guess you can expect that given the crazy movement we had yesterday. But technically, we did break all-time highs in pre-market this morning. Welcome Mike and Jay to the stream. And we have Jay saying, how's PayPal looking? So they're looking pretty good, Tom. They're continuing up.
Yeah, they actually, over the past few minutes, they had some nice green candles come in. So that's great to see at open. And man, I would think PayPal could continue. They had some great news yesterday about them actually opening up a brokerage firm, or actually allowing their customers, or they'll be working as a brokerage for their current customers if you sign up for that, I guess. So we'll have to see what happens. But it's awesome that they got the ex-CEO of Ally Invest. That's a pretty big, Ally was a pretty big platform there for about 5 to 10 years.
Gotcha. So Keisha said, sounds like you were in a tube major echo. I think I just fixed it. And then, it looks like Keisha says, Tom sounds better now. All right, thank you for that, Keisha. If there's any more audio problems, let us know, and I'll definitely fix it. Welcome to the stream, Justin and Sylvia. Tom, one other stock I wanted to point out was DraftKings. This stock had an amazing week last week, and it's kind of just holding its ground. It really hasn't been doing anything too major or the past 2 to 3 trading days. But, if they get this $3 billion deal with Disney, that could be huge.
Yeah, that could be really big, and people have been really hyping up that deal. I've gotten so many questions this week about Disney and DraftKings both, and honestly, there's a big resistance here on DraftKings right here, right around $60.50. And I would think if we get this deal, we would definitely pop up through that and possibly head up towards 65 or even 70 on DraftKings. And the all-time high is right around 74. So we're honestly just getting closer and closer, but we'll have to see what ends up happening. I would think that if this deal does go through, Mike, I could see a really good break of 60. And I feel like we could come up and hit 64 to 65 pretty safely.
And then, Tom, check out Zoom. So they actually reported pretty good earnings, and they're down 16%. They are just getting demolished right now. Like I said, they reported good earnings. It's just their expected growth is expected to decline. That's not meeting analyst expectations, and they're now big time either way. And it looks like they're just breaking below this 300 support.
Yeah, that's really bad to see, unfortunately, for Zoom. And I cannot believe it's falling below 300. I would have never expected a drop down this bad. But, people have been saying that with some of these companies like Zoom, that whenever people start to get back into their regular lives and we start getting back into society again, that things like Zoom won't be used as much. And I guess that's probably the reason why their growth is going to be going down. But, I would have expected them to kind of turn around a little bit. But honestly, they're down here around support. So the bottom level is right around 275. So watch out for that over the next couple of weeks. We're honestly getting pretty close to it. So watch out for that double bottom down there. But if we break that, then man, it could keep going down.
All right. What are you thinking about this SPRT action? They've been lingering around for a couple days now, but they're still pretty high.
Yeah, they're actually really high, and it looks like to me right now that they're going to be falling off. Unfortunately, they failed to break that $40 resistance again today after failing to break it yesterday. So to me, it just seems like it's going to be going down over today and then tomorrow, but that's just me. I know a lot of people are looking at this one to short squeeze, which it definitely has the potential. And if I see a move up through 40, I'll definitely throw it back on my watch list, and I'll definitely look at getting into to like a quick momentum play or just something really fast with it. I think that's more of the way to go. If you're trying to swing SPRT, I think that's going to be really hard.
Alrighty, and then we have Raphael saying RNXT is a new IPO with lots of volume. RNXT, how's it looking?
Yeah, like he said, only been on the market for a few days, but honestly, yesterday looked really good. Today, so far, it's just kind of flat, but yesterday's move was fantastic, and that was a pretty good move to the upside. And so far today, it's not really doing too much. So I don't know. We'll just have to eye it out and see, but I'll definitely have to look into them because it's a new IPO, and it honestly looks pretty interesting. It had a pretty big jump from that level. It opened at around $7 or $8. So that's a big move, actually. It had like 100% move yesterday.
Here we go. And then we have Alex saying, is it still too soon to get calls on DraftKings? If they're like leaps, I would say no. I think shares would be ideal for sure. I think shares would definitely be better given its past movement. But no, I don't think it's too late. I mean, of course, it's not ideal to be buying in now, compared to the past couple weeks, but no one can catch the bottom, So to answer your question, shares would be ideal. It's not too late to get, or it's not too soon to get calls on DraftKings, but if you do get calls, you really need to make sure you have time, because we can easily see a pullback to like $57.50. And if we do, you don't want that to like ruin the delta of your calls and just screw you over. So, I would definitely consider getting time. And then we have Keisha pointing out Tesla. So I know this one was all over the place. Like it was booming up right at open, came down, and now it's just kind of in the middle.
Yeah, look at this 1 minute chart. Really volatile candles here. On the 1 minute, some of them are even like 4 or 5 point candles here where there's 5 points within just one candle, which is crazy. But looking at it, I don't know. It's hard to say, Mike. It kind of double topped up there at the high of yesterday and the high of pre-market today. So kind of hard to give a prediction with Tesla today. I was expecting it up since it was up so much yesterday, but honestly, we're getting so far away from that 700 support that I would think that maybe we could go down today, but it's so hard to say because a lot of the market today is just more flat. I don't see too many things really flying up today, kind of like we've been seeing over the past few days. So it worries me. And then some of the bigger stocks like Apple, AMD, Nvidia, those are all red. So I feel like it could possibly make Tesla and some others go red, kind of like what we're seeing right now, how Tesla's just pulling back a little here at open.
Gotcha. And then, Tom, we can't forget about the China stocks. Baba is up a good amount today. Baidu, FXI, they're popping up, like they're at good levels. It's just you have a unique risk when it comes to investing into these companies.
Yeah, for sure. And, that delisting risk is always bad, but, grabbing shares somewhere around 150 on Baba is not terrible. Like over the past few days, we were around like 158. 160, and those levels are super low. Like I cannot believe that we fell through $200 a few weeks ago. Like that blew my mind whenever that happened, and it really scared me with these Chinese stocks. And personally, I don't think I'd be buying them. Maybe I'd sell some puts on them just play it that way. But overall, though, if these are good levels, and especially relative to highs, like man, if Baba ends up going up over the next couple of years and they could somehow get back to that all-time high, you're talking about like an 87 to 90% gain on the stock. So that's a pretty big opportunity.
You know it. And then we have Keisha also pointing out RH. So let's see. RH, I don't know if she means Robinhood. Probably Robinhood. Let's see. HOOD is down 2%. It looks like they're trying to pop up now. But, obviously, if that payment for order flow, if that gets banned, that'll definitely hurt Robinhood, but it'll also hurt like companies like Schwab, like in all brokers really. Like if you look at SCHW, Tom, Schwab, they tanked off yesterday right when Robinhood did too. So it's definitely a big thing for these brokerages. However, there's so much money in payment for order flow, I doubt that they're going to ban it.
Yeah, I would doubt that too, because there's a lot of stuff going on with that. And keep in mind that a lot of these people are going to probably be like lobbying and paying a lot of money to try to keep these laws the same. So that's why I think it'll stay the same. But in the end, that was a terrible drop yesterday out of both of these tickers, Mike. And I'm sure there's some more brokerages out there that ended up dropping too. But Wow, I mean, what a bad move. But hey, it's great to see Robinhood at least coming back up here at open. That's a great sign. And I know it's not as much of a recovery as we saw as a drop yesterday. So we're not really making up for too much yet. But man, that's still a good recovery up. And I'm glad to see the momentum coming back into the upside after that terrible news, because that definitely could have continued down.
Tom, I think the craziest stock so far today is Corsair. Like, this thing booms up, and then check out this action on like the 1 minute.
Yeah, this is insane. I cannot believe it hit 30.77, and now we pulled all the way back down to around 29.30. Like, man, this is some crazy movement here at open. And look at it yesterday, and look at it even in pre-market today. Like, this thing's been on fire. I don't know like what's been behind this, Mike, but I've been like looking at the news and trying to find any reason to find why this thing's been flying up, and I just cannot find any reason. I've been looking at stuff like all over Wall Street Bets, and some YouTuber had it and stuff. So I'm just a little confused with it. I would have expected to see some good news or some good numbers or something, but I'm not finding anything on any headlines or anything anywhere.
All right, so Tom, there are some pretty good stocks that are looking pretty good right now, and it's kind of like these meme stocks. So we have like Workhorse, that one's holding its ground very well. It's looking good. Plug, looking pretty good. CLOV, looking pretty good. Another one is BLNK. This one's up like 3%. Looks pretty good, and they're at some good levels. So definitely check those ones out. They're trending up pretty well. BLNK and ChargePoint. I know ChargePoint reports earnings tomorrow, I believe, and they're at some pretty good levels, and it's just like a good risk-reward ratio. Like, it's not the safest stock in the world, but it's just a good risk-reward ratio.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you what, it's actually right around that really good support. So watch out for CHPT, BLNK. All those stocks could do really well. And I know that they've been flying up lately, but man, look at Blink even right off that 30 support. Like, it does not get any, like, these setups don't get better than this, at least as far as being at support level. So I think it's a great time to buy it as far as shares and maybe like leaps as well. Always make sure you get time just in case. But man, I love the setups here out of these stocks. And I'm with you. I think that these are some of the better setups and some of the best opportunities in the market right now today, especially with the rise on them right now, because it just shows the strength. And I think it's holding those supports from just a couple days ago.
All right, and then we have Kumar saying Zoom is falling crazy today. Yes, it is, and they reported good earnings. It's just sometimes the market has other plans. Sometimes a stock can report great earnings and tank off, and sometimes it can report horrible earnings, but say they think they'll report good earnings next year, and it'll pop up. So the market's crazy sometimes, but it's definitely tanking. We have Keisha saying ASTS looks like a good setup. Let's take a look. ASTS, so it's down 2% today. It's not bad, on the daily. I mean, it's not my favorite setup in the world, but it definitely has some momentum.
Yeah, what a crazy stock. I mean, this thing's pretty crazy, actually. It's called AST Space Mobile. So, like, that's a pretty crazy name, Space Mobile. I'll have to look into what these guys do, but this setup is pretty nuts, Mike, and there's a lot of upwards momentum here. So, I don't know. I would say if we could break 1250, we could get a good move up.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at their company right now because I'm actually curious now.
Yeah, it's really like interesting name, and all these space stocks. I've been seeing a lot of new ones come onto the market lately, so I could just key like maybe they do something pretty interesting, and it'll be pretty big to see. I see their market cap's around $2 billion, so it's not that small.
Yeah, so it looks like they are building the first and only space-based cellular broadband network to be accessible by standard smartphones. So that looks like the main thing. I'm on their website right now. For the first time ever, mobile subscribers will be able to automatically roam from LAN networks to a space network. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it has potential. I mean, I never heard of them up until this point, but yeah, I mean, it looks like they're in a good sector. So I'll definitely keep it on my radar. Thanks for pointing that out, Keisha. Jorge's bringing up CRSR. This stock's looking pretty solid. I know it's all over the place, but hey, it's looking pretty good. It's up like 6% today.
Yeah, it's starting to run as of right now again, too. And I would think we're sitting right around $30, and it looks like we're going to be breaking that to the upside. So definitely watch it. I think it could run. And CRSR has been one of the hotter stocks over the past, 5 trading days or so. So definitely have it on your radar. It's really good.
All right. And then we have, let's see, Then we have, well, welcome Spacely to the stream. Let us know what stocks you're watching. But we have Manny pointing out MU. So, Tom, I know we talked about MU a little bit in yesterday's video. What are you thinking about it?
Actually, today it looks really solid, possibly for an intraday trade. If we could get a nice break here, like right now, we just broke the high of day. So I'm wondering how much further we can like start to run here out of MU. It looks really good to me in the short term and the long term. But let's go look at the max daily and kind of get an idea here on the daily chart how it looks. And you can see how not Corsair, MU has been sitting here right around the 70 support, and it was consolidating for like 5 to 7 days, had a really good move there. That 70 support I think is going to end up holding up for the longer term, but this momentum coming in right now is actually really good. And we had that nice green candle on MU that extended up to 77 and then came back down. And right now we're only at 74.50. So there's a pretty good potential to rise back up to 77 or even higher than that, I think, over the next few weeks, especially with getting past these SMAs and with holding that 73 support down there on like an intraday support. It just looks really good. And man, MU's been one of those hot stocks lately too. Like it's just been trending back to the upside. So hopefully, the buyers are coming back in because we've been seeing AMD, NVIDIA, and a few of those other ones like around all-time highs. And I would just think that MU has to have some buyers come into it soon.
All right. I mean, speaking of buyers coming in, we have NEO trending up pretty well, DraftKings, PENN, Palantir. Lots of good movement today, Tom.
Yeah, look at NEO, actually. This is actually a pretty good setup. Now, it is risky because it's kind of like BABA, and they are a Chinese stock. But I would say out of all the Chinese stocks, NIO would be the one that I would play if I had to pick any of them. But, man, it looks pretty good. Double bottoms here around $36. Looks pretty good off support. And I'll say this green candle today really makes this setup kind of extend back up, which is a great sign, especially if we can hold this level today. If we stay up above 38, I'll really like NIO. So have it on the radar. I think for tomorrow and the next few days, it could start to really fly up. And, we saw Tesla actually really rocketing up yesterday, and NIO was actually red, possibly because of that China news. And we ended up seeing BABA red yesterday too. So that could be the reason why they were red yesterday, but expect more growth to come in because they're kind of lagging behind Tesla a couple days. And if Tesla continues to go green, NIO might have to play catch up here.
All right. What are you thinking of DraftKings?
I really like DraftKings. DraftKings is one of my favorites. It's just, we're right at resistance right now. We're kind of triple topping here at 60.50, and we're extending up to that right now, actually at open. So it's hard to say, but I would think that we would end up going up through these levels, especially with this deal. If that deal goes through with Disney, I think that'll really help them out. And keep in mind it's with Disney, but it's with ESPN. So keep that in mind as well. It's more of Disney's Disney acquired ESPN a while ago, I should say. So let's just say that the ESPN will be the main people benefiting from the deal, I guess. But in the end, Disney will make the money. And I just think that with this double/triple top here, Mike, it looks like once this finally breaks out, we could definitely see a nice extension to the upside. And you can even see the last time it broke out intraday, it had a huge extension up to 61.77, and then it fell right back down. So watch out for a break. If it breaks out above here, you might see some really nice extensions to the up.
All right, Tom, you were breaking up a little bit. What were you saying on the last part?
I just said if we do see a break up above 60.50, it might be like a nice 3 to 5% run.
All right, good stuff. We have Jorge also pointing out NNDM and then Workhorse. So NNDM, it's looking good. It's up 3.5%. Good stuff. I was really eyeing out Workhorse, which is really testing that $10 resistance right now, Tom. I know this is a pretty big level, and if we see a break above 10, that could be huge. Let's see. It looks like Tom's having some technical difficulties again. It looks like his Thinkorswim's taking a second to load. Let's see. See, Workhorse is looking pretty good. I'm trying to get Tom back on the stream. Give me 1 second, guys. I apologize for this. Tom, let us know if you could hear me.
Starting to garner a Hello?
All right, now I hear you.
All right, yeah, I think that we are back. Yeah, sorry for this, guys. I don't know what's going on with the internet lately, but I don't know. Internet just cuts out a lot, I guess. So we'll have to see how that goes. But it's definitely go short CHT. So
All right,
we'll have to see what ends up going on with it. But hey, hopefully the internet stays well. And the market's doing pretty well so far today, though, Mike. And I hope that the internet can just stay well so that we can kind of keep going on here.
All right, so Workhorse is looking pretty good. DraftKings is looking good. We have I'm Fierce saying caught ZEV today and made a quick 150, looking good on the squeeze. There we go. Let's take a look at ZEV. So ZEV is up around 15% today. Good stuff. It looks like we're getting close to that $10 resistance. IV's popping up. The stock's popping up. Good job, I'm Fierce. Awesome to see that. And then, Tom, let's check back in on Corsair. That is up. Wait, okay. I was on ZEV still, and I thought it said that Corsair was up like 15%. So Corsair is up 7%. It's looking good. IV is still high. It's just trending up, and we can tell that there's a lot of buyers jumping in right now, and it's looking pretty good. So I like that. We have No Age saying any buys right now with the question mark. I mean, I like Corsair. Workhorse looks good. CLOV looks good. PLUG looks good. They're risky, but they have a lot of growth potential.
Yeah, and those EV stocks, I think, right now are going to be the main ones to go after. Like, we're seeing NIO do well today. Tesla's been doing well, and I would think CHPT, Plug, BLNK, and those stocks, they're definitely low down by supports. And relative to the overall market, like most stocks are around all-time highs right now. So it's great to see these ones lower. And I think that shows that a lot of people will start to come in and buy these up over the next few weeks to few months. And I know that we've been seeing people like Kathy Wood and stuff buying into some of these stocks while they've been low as well.
Alrighty. And then it looks like we also have Dash popping up. DASH, DoorDash. They're getting pretty close to that 200 resistance.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point and good move here, Mike. That's a great move. So hopefully they can come up and retest 200. I think that seems like a pretty safe setup here. This daily setup with Dash looks pretty good, to the upside. They just keep moving up, and they were consolidating there around 180 for around what seems like about a couple months there. So that's a pretty nice sign to see him finally heading back up to 200.
All right. I'm looking at a couple different things right now. It looks like the main stocks today that have the momentum are Corsair. You could say NIO. I was going to say AMC, but it's kind of selling off right now. Workhorse has potential, but it looks like the main one's Corsair. Corbin said UPST is having a good day. Yeah, it is having a really good day. It's up 5%. I was actually considering getting some puts on this one. Now, it's definitely risky because no one can call the top, on anything consistently. But I was really considering it. You look back throughout history, every time it has one of these giant run-ups, it normally has a pretty nice sized pullback, anywhere from $10 to $20. So I was really considering getting some puts on it because IV is so low too. But I didn't make any moves yet, and it definitely would be pretty risky.
Yeah, it would definitely be a risky play, but it could be a high reward play if it ends up working out. So hopefully it ends up, maybe bouncing off 228 or off 230 again and ended up going down. That would be a great sign for UPST. But yeah, I was actually about to bring them up too because they're actually leading my watch list today, up 4%, with BABA actually coming in close second at up 4% as well.
All right. SPCE's looking pretty decent, Tom. They're bouncing off that 25 support.
Oh, wow. Thank God they bounced off of there, Mike, because that was looking terrible. If they would have fallen through that support, that would have looked so bad on a daily setup. Man, I would have been bearish on SPCE, but man, I'm glad they held 25. Looks like a pretty good setup back to the upside now that they're actually moving back up. I think that looks like a solid move, and I really like it. So SPCE could be a good play, I think, for the next few days, especially if we could somehow get back up and through $28. I think that might pose as a little bit of resistance over the next day or two, but I really like SPCE. And, they had that news a while ago where that launch went successfully, and then Richard Branson announced a share offering just a day later. So it made the stock end up tanking down. And I would think that it's been a couple months now since that share offering happened. So I would think that the stock could get some more upwards momentum soon.
We will see. All right, let's take a look at the SPY overall. So they technically broke all-time highs in pre-market, but they're coming down pretty hard.
Yeah, the SPY unfortunately is coming down. Look at it on the 5-minute. I mean, looking pretty bad, falling below that support level of yesterday around $450. We ended up breaking that, or I mean 452, sorry. Broke that this morning to the downside. Now we're heading down towards 450. And I would think that we could head down towards there pretty easily, Mike. And my main reasoning for that is that over the past 20 trading days, the SPY is getting pretty overextended. So that's my main reasoning. And then we're also up above 450. And I would think that that would be a pretty good support level for us.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to look at a couple different things. I know some people were mentioning Zoom, which is literally just getting destroyed.
Yeah, like look at Zoom, man. That's wow. And I mean, I know people have been talking about that a lot too, how their growth could possibly go down because, people obviously aren't going to be using Zoom quite as much if they're getting back out into the real world again. Or a lot of people who are working at home are now working again in person. So that's the main reason I think for it. And it just sucks to see because a lot of people really thought that Zoom and some of these other companies would end up doing pretty well, kind of like Peloton, for example. And Peloton's kind of falling off too. So like they just reported earnings and they're down. And I would throw Zoom and Peloton. Now, I know that they're not the same company, but they both had the same benefit with COVID. So I would think that they would move pretty similarly. And just looking at it, I mean, it's hard to say, but Peloton's bouncing right on $100. So maybe Zoom will bounce off their support. And let's go look on the daily here. On the max daily, I mean, I see a pretty good support coming up right around like 275.
Alrighty. Let's see. We also have Jorge saying Redfin is free falling after that double top, he said. So let's take a look. How's it doing, Tom?
Definitely falling off. I mean, I wouldn't say well, I guess it is kind of free falling now. It's like lows of days, and yeah, I would say it looks pretty good. There is support though around 48, so be a little careful of that. I think that we might see a little bit of a consolidation or a little bit of a move back up right there, but I'm with you. It definitely looks like a bearish play to me right now, just looking at it for intraday movement. But as far as the daily chart, as far as the daily goes, we are kind of down by support still, and I would expect us to, over the next few months, to maybe get another rise back to the upside.
Alrighty. Let's see. Just doing a quick scan of the market. What are you thinking of BLNK?
I really like these stocks. BLNK is one of my favorites, actually, and I love how they're right at $30. Like, it's bounced off of it so definedly, too. Like, it didn't just go to, $29, then go back up. Like, it was seriously, right on 30, just about. So, really good moves there with BLNK, and I think that we're, like I said, right at that support. So, buying at 32.26 or 32.30, like where we are now, is not a bad move by any means. Like, look at the high up here at 64.50. You could almost get 100% gain if the stock ends up going back up to all-time highs, which, that'd be pretty hard to hold all the way back up to all-time highs. But, either way, though, it's a good time to pick it up right now by support. It's a lot better than picking it up here at highs at 42 or 45. Now, the thing is that I know that the majority of traders, though, they like to buy after the stocks are already rising. So, the main thing is that you don't want to be buying this one once it's already up here around the $40 resistance or something. Definitely take advantage of these lower prices because BLNK, CHPT, and some of those other ones are definitely pretty good pickups down here.
Yep. And they are risky. It's not like you're buying into Apple, but at the same time, you probably can't get like a 50% return with Apple in 3 weeks, at least on the stock. So either way, it's risky, but it has some pretty good potential, and I really like the way it's moving. Palantir is also trending up pretty well, Tom. You look at that daily chart, kind of like we had back in May or June. It just went on a nice strong uptrend for a month or so, and it looks like we're in one of those patterns again.
Yeah, it does actually. And I love how we consolidated for a long time and now we're finally breaking to the upside. And I would think that we could get way more momentum than what we're seeing right now too. I would expect some buyers to really come into Palantir eventually. And maybe it'll take breaking 2660, but I really like the setup. And that move today at open was really exponential.
You know it. Let's see. We have Corbin saying, what are your thoughts on EXAS? I'm still holding some calls. Let's take a look. EXAS. I mean, it's hard to say because it's making lower highs at the same time it's holding its support at 90. It really depends on when your calls expire. If they expire in a couple months, then maybe hold them. I mean, honestly, I just think there are a lot of better setups out there right now. Yeah, like it's just like 50-50 to me. I feel like there's so many other better setups: Corsair, DraftKings, Plug, Workhorse, CLOV, maybe even Neo. Like there's just so many better ones. BLNK. I'm just gonna be neutral on EXAS.
Yeah, me too. And it's just like Mike said, there's so many better opportunities out there. EXAS can definitely work out, and you can tell if you would have bought at the 90 support and played it up to this pop up to like 105, it could have been pretty good. But at the same time, there's lots of other stocks that have been rising a lot more significantly than that. I should say, like the percentage gain on other stocks is a lot higher in the same amount of time. So I think other stocks look a little better personally, but EXAS isn't terrible though. Like they're decent. It's not my favorite.
Alrighty. How are the China stocks looking?
Honestly, not too good right now. They were looking a lot better early on this morning, but they are kind of falling off now. Now, keep in mind they did all gap up this morning in pre-market, so don't be too surprised if we see a little bit of a move back to the downside. We did gap up yesterday. We closed around 162 or like 162.30 on BABA, and then we ended up gapping up all the way and open today at market open around 168. So that was a pretty big gap up. So I'm not too surprised to see some downwards momentum coming in here, and I would maybe expect some more upwards movement to come in maybe later in the day or possibly for tomorrow with these Chinese stocks. But honestly, they've been bouncing off these lower supports like BABA right around 150. So watch for some moves back to the upside. Like I feel like buyers might start coming in down here at the bottom, even though it's risky. I feel like some of the big players might start getting in. So just keep it on your radar and eye it up, because once they start rising again, I feel like that it'll get a pretty good pop back to the upside, because, I think that a lot of confidence might have to come back in. And, right now everyone's like really worried, but if like Biden talks to the president of China, or I should say the emperor of China now, because he made himself emperor for life. But if Biden talks to him, then maybe we'll, maybe that'll like renew people's confidence or something.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So we have Hunter saying, are you looking at cash secured puts on Zoom, Mike? I'm really thinking about it. When you have a stock down 17%, IV is still relatively high. It's pretty close to a big support level. I'm really thinking about it. Like if we go out to, let's just say the September 17th expiration, and let's say you get like the 260 strike, like, you'll get paid around $250 for that. And in the worst case scenario, you pick up shares at 260, and it hasn't been at 260 in like a year or so. So I'm really tempted. What about you?
Yeah, personally, I'm not too tempted for it, but Zoom, just keep in mind, like we've been talking about, Zoom's one of those harder plays where, it's kind of like a play on the virus. Like a lot of the growth is expected to slow down, which is kind of like why they're falling right now. So it's hard to say for me, because they had such a rise from like when they came on the market at 60 all the way up to 588. Like that was an insane move. Like I'd never seen that before. I mean, very rarely does that happen in the market. And now they're just flying back down. It's hard to say, like 260. I think that's a good area to grab it, but I would want to sell something around like the 200 strike if the opportunity gets there. But obviously right now, I'm sure those premiums are really, really low.
Alrighty. And then we have Kathy saying, what is going on with Square? Let's take a look. So Square is down 1% so far. Lots of sellers coming in at open. I'm not seeing any major news. However, I know that news with PayPal kind of getting into like the stock game a little bit. It's not the best news for Square in the world. So that's really the only thing I'm seeing. It's only down 1%, and there's no major news coming through right now.
Yeah, and Square generally does pretty good whenever Bitcoin ends up doing well too. So let's go check out /BTC and see how, Bitcoin's kind of just coiling over and just really consolidating here right at this $50,000 area. So if we get a little drop out of Bitcoin, I would not be too surprised to see Square maybe fall down a little bit too in the shorter term.
Alrighty, then we have Iranical saying, good morning. Is there any major news? My watch list is red and bloody. Alright, so there's nothing like crazy, like major news. However, the SPY is selling off a little bit. It had an amazing day yesterday. It is selling off. It's down like 0.2%. It just looks like a pullback. There's, I would say most stocks are red today. However, certain stocks like Corsair, BLNK, Palantir, and I guess you could say some of these China stocks are booming up. So it's just, to me, it looks like a normal red day. There's no major news to go along with it. And then we have Joseph saying, how does the chat feel about LABU call? Let's take a look. LABU. LABU, it's not bad actually. I'm glad you brought that up. Looks like a biotech ETF. Doesn't look bad.
I actually like this. I haven't heard of these biotech. I haven't seen too many biotech ETFs out there, and I'm glad you brought this one up because I've never heard of this one before, and it's very interesting. I like the movement with it, and I would think that it could get another pop back up, especially if like some of these companies that have been falling over the past like 3 to 6 months can end up getting themselves back up. I think that'll really help LabU go, and I'm gonna really look at like what kind of companies this ETF's holding because it'll be really interesting to find out.
Alrighty. Just looking through a couple different things right now. I know Tesla was all over the place this morning. How's it looking now?
Let's see. Tesla was moving very well. I know early on I thought like right at open, but yeah, right now it's just kind of consolidating. Looks like that upwards movement wants to come back in, Mike, but it's just like right in the middle of the range. To me, I'm more 50-50 on it. I'm slightly leaning to the upside, but it looks really 50-50 right now. We're just in the middle of the range today, and there hasn't been too much movement in one direction. There's been a lot of up and down movement, but I would say I'm leaning more to the upside. How about you?
Yeah, I would say so as well. It's been trending up for a couple weeks now, and I think it's due for a little bit of a pop. And I'm curious what Burry's doing. I know he was short Tesla. I know he also was short Tesla at a good level too. So I'm very interested to see how his position's doing. My eyes are really on like Corsair and Palantir. I know we talked about Corsair so much, so let's take a look at Palantir. It's up, like 2% or so, and just like we saw last time when it ran up, it's not like it had like 20% up days. Like it would just have like 1% up days, and then that would be pretty good. Like it had like a really nice run up from like $20 to like $27 last time. So it's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, mine too. Like once this thing starts to break, it really runs. And I've noticed that over the past few trading days, right at open, Palantir has been having these great moves to the upside right at market open. So definitely eye them up. I think more around market open, especially if you're like a day trader, you want to get into like some quick movement. If you start to see some nice breaks to the upside on the 1 minute chart at market open, like maybe tomorrow, it might be a good time to maybe grab in or hop into some quick calls or something, because especially if it's breaking 2660, because this stock is really volatile, likes to move. And like I just pointed out on the chart here, at open every single day for the past like 4 or 5 days in a row, we've just seen huge moves to the upside, which makes for really good trading. So generally, it's been moving up. So hopefully it keeps going, and definitely eye it up though, because it could, break down at open. So you have to be really careful, and just trading it open is one of the hardest ways to go, but it can definitely be one of the most rewarding if you can do it right.
All right, and then I'm also looking at like LMND, maybe for some short puts or shares.
I think that's good to short some puts or possibly grab shares there. Looks pretty good down here by support, and man, there's that bottom support at $60. It looks really good, and we're at 74 right now, but this stock moves quite a bit, and the upside at highs here is 188. So that's pretty high. That's a pretty high like reward there if it ends up going up, and I think it's a pretty good time to grab it, Mike. We are, like I said, like 14 points above that bottom support, but I think it's still pretty decent.
Alrighty. Then what are you thinking of LVS? Like, I'm kind of like, I like them for like a couple week swing, but for this week, they're looking a little bit weak given how big of recovery they had over like the past couple days.
Yeah, I really like look at that bottom recovery with LVS. Like they were at 36.50 at the bottom, and over the course of like 3 or 4 days, they just shot all the way back up. So let's see that rise there, 36.50. Let's just say for those 2 or 3 days, they had like a nice like 17 to 20% pop out of LVS, which is really big. And there is a lot of resistance here right at like $45, which we're getting pretty close to. So I could definitely see it slowing down or getting a little weak, like you said. But I'm definitely still eyeing it up for a move up through 45 eventually. Like maybe next week or the week after, I'm definitely still looking at it for that move up. The question is how long are we going to kind of consolidate here? Because we're still by those lows, and I would expect it to stay down here for a little while. Like, I don't think we're just going to, start shooting back up to $60 anytime soon.
Alrighty. Let's take a look at the SPY. How's that doing? Still down like 0.2%. Not too much movement today. It looks like a lot of things pulled back like from that initial run up, like even PLUG and Workhorse. They had great openings and they just pulled back a little bit. It looks like it looks like the SPY is kind of holding certain stocks back this morning. Like of course it's easier for stocks to run up when the market's booming to the upside, but when you have selling pressure, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So yeah, I'm looking at that. Corsair also pulled back quite a bit. Tom, check that out.
Yeah, that pullback was pretty bad, actually, nasty on the 1 minute. That's a pretty bad red candle, Mike. And we're down below that like pre-market low of like 26.65. We're all, or I mean 29.65, but we're all the way down now below like 29.50 and just not looking too good. But we are kind of bouncing off that level like around open. So it's hard to say right now. This stock is very volatile, but honestly, it looks like we might end up going back down a little bit right now in the shorter term. Now, it doesn't mean that tomorrow or later on today it won't rise, though.
All right. We have Hunter saying FIVN is clapped. Let's take a look. Dang, 15%. Oh, it's probably because of Zoom, because they were, this actually makes sense, because Zoom's buying them out. So, that's getting smacked. Let's see. BLNK up 3%. Palantir. So, it looks like we covered all of the major movers so far for this morning, Tom. Like, do you have any like stocks you've been watching? Like, I know we were talking about like MU and Qualcomm earlier in the week. Like, what are you watching?
A couple stocks that are doing pretty decent today that we haven't really talked about are some of these marijuana stocks. We actually have CGC starting to get some green momentum here today to the upside, which is pretty decent. It's not a defined bounce off support or anything by any means, but hey, it's looking pretty decent. And if these stocks start to turn around, that could be good news. We have ACB turning back up. Tilray doesn't look too bad, up only 1%, but it's honestly holding these lower levels pretty well. And I'm glad to see it bouncing off $13 in Tilray's case. So maybe we'll start to see another rise, because Tilray had a big support down here around like 12.75, and we got pretty close to that over the past few days. So I would think that we could get a rise back up. And I've heard that like the infrastructure bill is possibly going to get passed over the next few weeks, and they've been saying marijuana comes after that. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. But overall, the marijuana sector is not doing too bad. And then another stock I was looking at today, I'm still eyeing up Pfizer. Pfizer's been moving really crazy the past few days, and they had a really steep sell-off, especially on the daily chart. You can see they just went straight down. Now they're kind of getting a little bit of green momentum back into them, and I would think that maybe we could get another pop back up over the next day or 2 days. Now, I don't think we'll test all-time highs, but I think we could get a nice pop up to 48 or maybe 49.
Yeah. And then, let's take a look at SPRT. This one's down 6%, and the calls and the puts are down. Calls are down 20%. The puts are down anywhere from 1 to 10%. So, yeah, this one's just kind of not moving, which kind of worries me in a little bit, because a lot of times with these short squeeze stocks, when you have a run up from 5 all the way up to 60 in a couple weeks, normally you have a larger pullback. I'm not saying they're going to go back down to $5 by Friday, but they're just holding their ground very well.
Yeah, they are actually holding it pretty decent. And personally, to me, it looks like it might go down, but I'm with you. As long as they hold their ground and people start to come back in, I think it could definitely go back up. And I would think this bottom level here around 30 seems really solid to me. So if we hold that, I think we could definitely end up going back up today. But Mike, I have actually heard some really crazy stuff going on with the Hurricane Ida right now. And I've heard some weird stuff where there's some insurance stocks like Allstate, ticker ALL. And apparently these stocks could go crazy with these hurricanes going on. We can see Allstate has actually had a pretty bad downtrend over the past 4 or 5 trading days. And I wonder if that has something to do with the hurricane. And also Allstate's double topping on the daily, at 140 and posting lower highs. And man, I'm really getting worried about this one. And especially with these analysts on investing.com putting articles out about Allstate possibly getting hurt because of this.
Huh, yeah, it's definitely interesting. Good, I'll definitely keep them on my radar. For SPRT, I'm also leaning more towards the downside. We have Jorge saying CRWD with earnings after market today. So they're pretty elevated, Tom. Like, we all know earnings are crazy, and we've seen stocks like DKS have a very similar setup. Like, they were running up before earnings, and they just kept going. They broke highs, and they're still going. So, earnings are 50-50, and it should definitely be pretty interesting with CRWD.
I think so too. And they've been a pretty well talked about stock. Like, they've been hyped up pretty well the past year. And I know they're big into the cybersecurity industry and everything. So hopefully they can keep going up. I'd really like to see it. And I'm with you, Mike. That's a pretty crazy thing to see how DKS kept running like that. And I'll tell you, CrowdStrike's that's a really good eye, Mike, because that's a pretty similar setup there. Like, I'll be honest, like, if CrowdStrike gaps up, I'm definitely going to be texting you about it.
There we go. So it looks like more stocks are going red right now. Like, even some of the cruise lines, like RCL, like, they had a really good opening and they just sold off. So yeah, like, they had a pretty solid opening, and it looks like a lot of stocks kind of followed that pattern, whether it be Corsair, BLNK, basically any growth stock, Workhorse, all the same pattern. So yeah, it sucks to see. Palantir's holding its ground. I mean, there's not really much else to talk about right now. The market's not really moving too much. So Tom, do you have any last minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I'm still eyeing up a stock that we have not talked about too much, but UPST has been moving very well today to the upside, but I'm still going to be eyeing them up for puts. It looks like they might be double topping up here around 228, and they are around these all-time highs. And look at them on the max daily. Looks pretty crazy. So I would think that they could get a fall back down. And I know we talked about this earlier, but I feel like that this setup is just a really good setup right now. They're really overextended, and I think that there's a lot of potential for them to fall down over the next few weeks. So definitely eye them up on your radar. I think that'll be great. And I'm also still going to be eyeing up MU. This one's one of my favorite stocks, and they look like they're back on the uptrend here. And as long as we can maybe break $75, I think we could get a nice break to the upside over the next few days.
Good stuff. So thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We had a lot of interesting movement, to say the least. And either way, there's a lot of opportunities in the market right now with Corsair, DraftKings, BLNK, Plug, Clove, Workhorse. There's a bunch of stocks out there. So definitely look. There's a lot of plays. So definitely be on the lookout for them. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and have an amazing day.